What is going on, guys? I am SceptileMC, or George, here to bring you round 3 of the RU Open versus Omastar was his name on Pokemon Showdown. Here we got Porsche Panamera. It's not even Panorama, it's Panamera. I don't know why, but that's his name, her name, whatever it is. I said it. That's okay. Okay, let's just get on into the videos. I'm gonna tell you guys now that this little series I had with this person was incredible, and huge props to them. These battles were the reason why I wanted to join the tournaments in Smogon, because the level of play is so high. It's just incredible to participate in it. So, without further ado, I'm going to start talking about the battle. So, in the first battle, I decided to bring my standard team that I brought last round. Now, the reason I'm not using any new teams in this round is because they dropped the Shaman and the Slurpuff right as this round was going on. So, I couldn't build and test any new teams. So, I was like, well, I'm not going to build a team and throw it into a tournament play. I would want to test it first, so I can't do that. So I decided gonna have to bring the same teams as I brought in the last weeks, which is unfortunate, but it had to happen. And looking at this man's team, he doesn't have the only thing that answers to Mega Glalie is the Blastoise and the Emboar. So what I'm gonna do is just lead off with my Mega Glalie, try to get off the Mega Evolution. He leads off with Emboar, actually, and I'm thinking, okay, he's probably going to fire off a Flare Blitz right here. Turns out he goes for a Toxic, expecting me to switch out, which was a good plan on his part. This kind of gave me the false like sense of security that he's not a Choice Scarf set. He is a Choice Scarf set, by the way. I go for a safe Moonblast right there, hoping he would try to hit me with a Flare Blitz, but he didn't. Then he pulls a Double Switch into Fletchinder, expecting me to want to go out into my Scrafty or the Sigilif or something along those lines. And I can't stay in versus this thing, and he's just going to go for an Acrobatics. So right here I'm thinking, you know what, I can Toxic anything on this guy's team. If he wants to go into Blastoise, then if I go for Toxic, it's Toxic. He might have the Refresh, but then I can get at my Stealth Rocks, and I can force him to Rapid Spin, and I can get a safe switch into something else. And I'm looking at his team right here, and I'm like, you know what? Druddigon actually goes for Outrage against everything on this man's team. So I don't have any reason not to go out into Druddigon right here. I know he's not going to fire off an Ice Beam. And he goes for Rapid Spin, and then he doesn't see the Rough Skin, and he doesn't see the Rocky Helmet. So he knows this is probably offensive, but he still goes for Toxic anyway, which is fine with me. I go for Outrage, do 79% to Blastoise, and then I'm obviously just locked into a Life Orbed Outrage right here. He decides to switch out into his Druddigon of his own, and you guys are about to see how much damage I take from this. Rough Skin, Rocky Helmet, Life Orb, Confusion, and Toxic damage right there. So dropping me down like 50% in one turn. Now, I am confused, and I do have a safe switch in the form of my Registeel. I know he's not going to go for a Wisp right there, so I have a safe switch in that. And I know I can preserve my Druddigon for possibly the Sucker Punch, and I can Outrage against the Slowking anytime I want. So I go for Toxic again, knowing that if he were to go into his Blastoise, I would predict him to Refresh on this turn and just fire off a Seismic Toss. That's exactly what happens, and we go 6-4 up early on. But we can't sleep on his remaining Pokemon, so he decides to go out into his Emboar right here, and I just have to sack something. I just gotta sack something. I go into Scrafty, and I'm like, okay, what kind of set is this any Christmas? If he's Choice Scarf set, he doesn't KO me right there. If he's Bandit set, he does, and I'm just thinking, you know what? Maybe he's like some Blaze Plate. Nah, he's Choice Scarfed. And really, I sacked off my Glalie right there because I don't have the Freeze Dry. I don't outspeed the Meloetta. Actually, I do outspeed the Meloetta, but if it's Choice Scarf Meloetta, it does just go for a Focus Blast. The Fletchinder can go for Acrobatics against me, so I decide just to sack it off, and I get the crucial recoil off on the Emboar, and you guys will see. So he goes for Wisp right here. I go into Sigilif, expecting him to actually want to double switch into Emboar, expecting my Registeel. Turns out he goes for Wisp, and then I go into Registeel now, and he goes into Meloetta. And right here, I'm like, okay, I want to Toxic this thing. I really want to Toxic this thing. Feel like it's crucial, and he goes for a Focus Blast, and that is Specs damage. I think that's Specs damage. I didn't calc it, but I'm assuming it is. I go into Sigilif right here, expecting him to want to fire off a Focus Blast again, does 20%. I think that's Specs damage. And right here, I am gonna fire off a Psychic, expecting him to want to go out into either either the Ember or the Fletchinder. Goes into Slowking. Pretty obvious play, actually. I should have gone for the Energy Ball, expecting the switch, or even the Dazzling Gleam would have been better. But I go for 2 Energy Balls. Doesn't quite take him out. I got him min roll on the first one and a higher roll on the second one, so I can't be too mad. I go for Psychic and I take it out. So all he has left is the Fletchinder, the Meloetta, and the Ember. I'm going to stand against the Meloetta and just fire off a Heat Wave. It's my best way. He has a Choice Scarf and priority on the other Mons. So right here, he goes for Psychic, and I can go out into Druddigon right here, and I play it safe. I should have clicked Outrage right there. And I'm really regretting not clicking Outrage, or just in general not going into Druddigon right there, because I lose Druddigon for no reason. I go into Registeel, and I'm able to get off a Seismic Toss, I believe, on the Meloetta, yes, which is going to bring him down in Toxic. And then right here, I know he's going to try to over-predict and go for Psychic, so I go for my Stealth Rocks right here, expecting him to just want to go for a Psychic, expecting the Aromatisse to come out. It's great for me. And now you see my health. I'm at 35% health, and this is crucial. Me being at this range of health is crucial for the end game. He goes for a Flare Blitz right here, able to bring me down to 39%. I do recover with my leftovers. I go for a Protect right here, and all I think is, please get the second Protect and survive Aromatisse. I think that's would help us a lot. I can go for then a Wish against on the Fletchinder if he tries to go for if he tries to go for a Roost. Turns out he just takes me out on the second one. And right here, I'm in Registeel against the Fletchinder, and he goes for Wisp, obviously, and I go for Toxic. Now, this is just who dies faster. Who dies to the recoil faster? And I didn't do the math. I didn't calculate it or anything. I got Seismic Toss. I know he has Roost, and I have Toxic, and he has Burn. And I'm really weakened because of the Focus Blast. If I didn't take the Focus Blast, this would be a very different game. And if I gone for Outrage instead of the Sucker Punch, this would have been a very different game again. But I'm going to wear him down, and at this point I'm thinking, I think I lose my game 1. And we do in fact lose game 1 right here, guys. So we go down, and the first loss in the RU Open is our game 1 against Omastar, or the Porsche Panamera. We drop him to 30%, and he's able to take us out with another Acrobatics. So it was a great first game, very close 1-0, and that's a common theme in these games, guys. That's a common theme, and I'll move right on into the next one. Alright guys, we are here with the second match of RU Open. Now, we bring very similar teams here in the sense that we both have Diancie, we both have a Bulky Water, and we both have a Medicham. Now, my Medicham is in fact a Life Orb spread. His is a Choice Scarf spread, so a little bit interesting there. He does have a Dugtrio to trap things like my Jolteon. He can also trap my Medicham as well as my Drapion, so I got to be careful around that. But looking at the lead matchup for him, I'm kind of expecting either Diancie to lead or something like that, and just in general, my Flygon is a great lead for me. So he leads with Fletchinder, actually. And funny thing is, this is a specially defensive Flygon, so I don't have anything to hit the Fletchinder with, actually. So I just hard switch out knowing he can outspeed me, go into my Jellicent. I'm not too concerned about this. Go for a Wisp, expecting him to want to switch out there. He goes into Venusaur, which means something needs to take a Leaf Storm right here. I go into Drapion, I'm like, you can take one. He can take one. On a good day, he can take one. But right here, I know he's not going to stay in. He's at 66%. He doesn't want to take a knockoff, so I Pursuit Trap him. Just 43% to him. Take him down to 23, which means he dies after Rocks and Burn now. I'm going to make the switch into my own Diancie on his Diancie. Now, right here, I was half expecting him to go into Dugtrio, which is why I didn't click Diamond Storm right there. I thought the Venusaur might come in, but I also just expected him to go into Dugtrio and trap me. So I went for Rocks instead and made a safe play, and he goes into Venusaur. I expect him to go for a Synthesis right here, trying to preserve the Venusaur, but he just goes for a Leaf Storm and takes out my Drapion and takes himself out. So we have a double down turn 7, and then kind of funnily enough, we both go into Medicham. Now, if he's a Choice Scarf set, he can't KO me, but I can KO him because I'm a Life Orb variant. Now, I go for Zen Headbutt right there, just 46%. He can take another one if I get a... It depends on the roll. But I decide right here I'm just going to fire off a high jump kick. I don't care if he wants to switch into Blastoise expecting a bullet punch. I don't... Just firing off a high jump kick. Now I know right here if he's Choice Scarf he can take me out with a Zen Headbutt. Go into Diancie expecting that. And it does exactly 41%, which means I can take another after leftovers. And right here, I do believe I just fire off a Moonblast as he goes into Dugtrio. So now he decides to trap my Diancie, which isn't a problem. I don't really care if Diancie wants to go down at this point. It is my check to the Fletchinder. However, I do have other things that can check it more offensively, like my Jolteon. I go into Medicham right here. I forgot about Sucker Punch, actually. Kind of unfortunate, because I go for BP right here, and I just take health kind of unnecessarily. Could have gone into something like my Flygon instead. He goes into Medicham right here, and I'm like, well, this thing is Choice Scarfed, and I know it's going to kill something, so I'm going to sack off my own Medicham. I'm just going to get off a BP. Nice little 36% on him as he takes me out with a Zen Headbutt. Right here, I go into Flygon. I know I can take any hit, but I also know he's probably going to switch out, trying to preserve his Choice Scarf first. It's the only thing that takes on my Jolteon, so I U-turn out of there, and I go into Jolteon. Now, right here, I should have clicked T-Bolt. It kind of would have made the next part that's about. I'm actually going to make it go faster now. I click Volt Switch. It doesn't kill. I expected it to kill, but it did not kill. And now this is just a war of... I need a lot of HP to take hits from the Medicham. So I'm going to try to heal up and try to burn him. And I'm actually just going to skip the turns, because this is Rapid Spin, and then eventually I go for Burn. He gets off a Refresh, and then he's not able to take my next Scald. He goes into Fletchinder, tries to go for a Roost for some reason, and I click Scald and do 90% to him. So the Fletchinder's not going to survive another Scald. I decide right here that my Flygon is going to be able to take on the Medicham. If he doesn't get a crit Ice Punch Freeze through the burn here, I'm good. Goes for Zen Headbutt, which means he either has to miss or he has to flinch me. And he doesn't flinch me, and we are able to pick up the 2-0 win in the second game of the RU Open. So now, me and Omastar are tied 1-1 right here, and it's pretty damn close between us. And I'm going to get on right into the third game, and you guys are going to see something pretty funny. For right here, we have almost identical teams. Almost identical. So this is going to be a true battle of who can play better. We have the same core in the form of Jolteon, Venusaur, and Blastoise, and the Rhyperior. Turns out both of our Rhyperiors are Choice Banded. I have an offensive Venusaur, while he has more of a defensive one. I think our Blastoises are the same set. I believe I have a Choice Specs Jolteon. I believe the Drapion is Choice Scarf. This is a bulkier Uxie. And yes, so just looking at this, my plan off the bat is he's probably going to lead Uxie. I'm going to lead Rhyperior, and it turns out, funnily enough, he leads Rhyperior, and now I'm max speed. I'm adamant. I am Choice Banded, and I go for Earthquake. Does 93%, and then his Earthquake does 93%. So, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest Rhyperior? He decides to make the switch just like I do into our ground immunities, because we both know that we are Choice Banded. Right here, I do go for an SD. Honestly, I was expecting him to want to sack off the Rhyperior right there. I don't know why I didn't Wisp. That would have been a better play. I go into Venusaur right here. He gets a crit on the Scald. Doesn't really matter in the end. And he goes into Venusaur. I predict that. I go for a Sludge Bomb. Just 49%. I'm on the verge of picking up the KO. The 2-hit KO, but he has the Black Sludge and is able to just go for a Synthesis right here, trying to stall me out. Going to Fletchinder. And right here, I do believe I just go for an Acrobatics. No, I go for a Wisp, trying to see if the Blastoise does in fact have the Refresh or not. 90% of the time they do. On the off chance they don't, though, turns out he does. So that's fine. I go into my own Blastoise right here, and now it's kind of just who does what. He's going to go into his Venusaur right here, as I believe I fire off a... No, I make a double switch into my own Venusaur. I don't know what I was expecting there, actually, to be honest. But I go for a Synthesis right here. He goes for a Sludge Bomb. He's doing only 32% to me. And I know that with my Synthesis, it'll just be a very close who can kill who first. I go for Sludge Bomb, does 40% to the Drapion. And right here, I'm thinking, is he going to pursuit trap me? You know, I have to take the risk. I need to switch out into my Dready gun right here. Turns out he goes for the knockoff. I get off the Rocky helmet and the rough skin on him with my Dready gun. And right here, I do believe I just set up my stealth rocks right here. And he goes into Rhyperior, and I'm like, shit, this is max speed. Or at least it has some speed, I have a feeling. And I go into Blastoise, and he goes for the Stone Edge, expecting me to want to go out into the Fletchinder. Right here, I do just fire off a Toxic, expecting him to want to switch out. I didn't think he would go into the Venusaur because I did pull double switches before. Maybe I would pull a double switch into my own Rhyperior. But right here, I go into Jolteon, expecting him to want to go for a refresh. And right here, I realized that was choice. And I'm like, shit, I need Life Orb right now. I'd be so much better with Life Orb. And he switched into Rhyperior on my Volt Switch. I should have gone for HP Grass. I should have gone for Shadow Ball. I should have gone for any other attack that was not Volt Switch right there. And he goes for Banded Stone Edge, and that does a lot of damage. And right here, I pull a double switch into my Rhyperior, expecting him to want to go into his Venusaur. If this is a max defensive Venusaur, I outspeed him. No, I speed tie with him if he is no speed investment. Turns out he either got the speed tie or he was speed invested, and then he pulls a switch into Rhyperior. I go for Acrobatics. I take out this goddamn Rhyperior, fucking annoying ass Pokemon, and he goes out into the Blastoise. Now I go for Acrobatics again on the Blastoise, expecting him to want to go for a refresh right here, just to get off some nice little damage on him. And then right here, I do believe I switch out into my Venusaur, and he goes for a Scald, and he gets the burn. And this really cripples my Venusaur right here. Now my Venusaur isn't just free to fire off a Leaf Storm right here. I do go for Sludge Bomb. Don't really want to fire for Leaf Storm and get -2. And then I realize how close to death my Venusaur is. And right here, I go for another Sludge Bomb, half expecting him to be like, okay, now he's going to go for Leaf Storm, or he's just going to go for a Synthesis. I'm going to switch to my own Venusaur. That doesn't happen, and my Venusaur goes down. I go into Jolteon right here, and I'm like, okay, go for Volt Switch. And again, I don't know why I didn't click Shadow Ball. I really should have clicked Shadow Ball. I misplayed a few times in this last game. He goes for Psyshock, and that's going to drop my Blastoise down to 28%. I know a Scald from this range is going to be able to take him out because I am in Torrent. So I do just click the Scald. It brings him down and takes out the Uxie. So now we're 4-4, and he is in the power seat right now. I don't have the advantage in this game. I need to make some kind of moves in order to get the game in my hand. He goes for Sludge Bomb against my Dready gun, able to get the poison on me. I go for Gunk Shot, and it does 24%. And he's Black Sludge. So that did no damage. He goes for Giga Drain, takes me out, and I lose my Dready gun for basically no reason. Now I decided to go into Fletchinder, because that was the better play in general at the start. And I'm going to click Acrobatics here, see how much I can do. I do 65%, brings him down. I should have done that in the first place, but I don't. And now it's up to my Jolteon. Choice Specs Jolteon with the Shadow Ball. Let's see what we can do. We take out the Venusaur, great. And to be honest, I either need to get the roll on the Jolteon and the roll on the Drapion. I don't get the roll on the Drapion. He's able to go for Poison Jab right here. We take out the Drapion on the next turn, but that damage on us is something we cannot recover from. For Shadow Ball here, if I got a crit, it probably wouldn't have killed. I would really need a high roll to kill there. And we lose the last match 2-0. To Omastar, which knocks us out of the RU Open, guys. So I was really hoping I could push for more of a round 5, round 6 type tournament right there, but unfortunately we do go out to Omastar right here in 3 fantastic games. And we actually talked about it, or we talked for a short amount of time like after the battles, and he said that that was the first time he's ever had to go to game 3. That was the first time I had to go to game 3, and we brought almost identical teams in the third game, and it was just sometimes shit like that happens, guys, and it was incredible. And just the participating in the tournament was just great overall. I'm really happy that I participated in it, and I'm definitely going to participate in the Grand Slam in the next year when it is open again. I didn't get into the UU Open, which is my strongest tier in my opinion, so definitely going to try to do that earlier next year. Definitely going to join RU again next year, but it's going to be changing a lot, guys. That's when Gen 7 comes out, so we don't even know what's going to be happening by then. If we're going to have Z moves, if we're going to have Mega Evolutions, I don't even know anymore. But, guys, that is going to be all for today, and this ends our little mini-series of RU Open. Unfortunate losses. However, I can't say that I didn't enjoy myself thoroughly in these games. So guys, that is going to be the end of the video. If you did in fact enjoy, I'd really appreciate if you did leave a like rating. Comment if you want to comment about how I sucked in the last game. I know I did not play well in the last game. Or if you just want to be like, hey George, you're pretty cool. Thanks, man. I'm just rambling at this point. So guys, I'm SceptileMC or George, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace!